Between January and April of 2019, I got a chance to test some of Alexander Arms' Hornady SST 129 grain ammo that a buddy of mine had given to me. Coming out of my rifle at 2,275 feet per second, these are my observations from several hunts. Starting off with a couple central nervous system shots on hogs, this one being on the 190-pound sow. The bullet entered behind the head and above the spine, exited out behind the jaw, had a nice large permanent wound cavity of about an inch. A few fragments were left behind, but otherwise the bullet exited fairly cleanly. Same night, another central nervous system shot. The bullet entered below the left ear, crossing through the brain case and exiting out the opposite side below the right ear, leaving about a 3/4 inch hole, indicating that the bullet had expanded. With this next hog, the shot was intended not to hit the central nervous system, and as expected, the hog ran. Unfortunately, it ran further than expected, got down into the creek bottoms, and I did not recover it until the next day. The shot had entered behind the shoulder, between the ribs, crossed through the lung and liver, and exited out on the opposite side. Now, it actually bled quite a bit. There was a good blood trail that I did not follow down into the bottoms. Not only did it exit out the side, but it also produced some secondary damage in the chest cavity as well. This was my first attempt at trying to intentionally recover a bullet from the hog with a longitudinal shot. The second shot there simply because the hog was still upright. The hog entered just behind the jaw, forward of the shoulder, going through the shoulder blade, actually breaking the shoulder blade at the neck, continued through, breaking a rib, entering the chest cavity, where it actually liquefied a lung, went through the heart, then into the liver, and then into the intestines, where it was not recovered. Here's a picture of the damage to the heart. This next shot was just supposed to be a simple shoulder girdle shot. The hog went down with a considerable amount of bleeding. The shot was vertically centered, entering forward of the right shoulder, exiting out lower down in the middle of the left shoulder, possibly going through the spine and going through some ribs, a lot of arterial spurting. Unfortunately, there was no necropsy because storms came upon me at that time. As I was unable to necropsy the previous hog, this next hog I also intentionally shot through the shoulder. The hog went down with a shot that broke the humerus, breaking off the head of the humerus, and then proceeded through the cervical vertebrae, exiting out on the opposite side. Obviously a central nervous system shot with about a 3/4 inch wound channel. This next hog was the largest hog of the sample and the farthest shot taken. A 245-pound boar at 140 yards. The shot entered behind the left eye, went through the skull, and exited out on the opposite side. No reason to do a necropsy on this animal with a CNS shot. This is the one twofer of the series. The first hog was impacted in the vertical center of the neck just behind the head, with the bullet exiting out on the opposite side just below the ear, about a 2/3 of an inch diameter wound cavity. No metal fragments were detected. The second hog, however, had the bullet enter just below the ear, and I was able to find part of the bullet using a metal detector. So I sliced open the skull, revealing a bullet fragment. This was the only fragment recovered, and it turned out to be just the jacket of the bullet with no core present. The shot on this next hog was not as intended, because just before we shot, the hog turned.
3, 2, 1.
While my partner is shooting at another hog, my hog runs and eventually collapses. The bullet entered the left side and exited the right side, going through the shoulder blade, breaking it, going through a rib, crossing through the chest cavity below the spine, where it exited out the other side, breaking another rib, breaking the scapula, and producing a large wound of about an inch. This next hog was another attempt to try to recover the bullet intact with a longitudinal shot. As the hog did not immediately go down, a follow-up shot was administered, striking the hind legs. The bullet entered the side that you can see here, appeared to open up fairly quickly, doing a lot of subcutaneous damage to the musculature here. Then entered the abdomen and chest cavity, doing damage to several organs, before exiting the chest cavity, breaking the third rib, and then becoming trapped in the skin here. The bullet was recovered relatively intact. It had expanded nicely and had shed only about 25 grains of weight. I tried to make a similar shot on this next hog, then had problems with unintentionally nuking the scope, but that had no bearing on the ballistic tests. The shot entered high on the shoulder here, just posterior of the shoulder blade, passing under the shoulder blade where it entered the thoracic cavity, breaking one rib, and then exited out the other side of the thoracic cavity, breaking another rib, where the bullet ended up lodging in the skin just behind the left mandible. The bullet also was recovered fairly intact after losing less than 22 grains of weight. And the final hog of the series was another attempt at a twofer, and this hog ended up having an unusual result. Let's do the shot. The shot entered behind the ear and above the spine. Peeling back the skin, it was hard to see any damage from the bullet here, and I actually had to feel around before I found the bullet path above the spine. There were my fingers probing the wound channel. Exiting out the other side, you see a large hole in the skin indicating that the bullet had indeed expanded, and peeling back the skin revealed a very large wound channel. And what makes this shot interesting is that the bullet hit absolutely no vital structures, passing only through skin and muscle. Overall, the Alexander Arms Hornady SST 129 grain ammo seems to do very well. Even though it's low velocity, it penetrates well, penetrates heavy bone well, it expands appropriately, and does not leave a lot of metal behind.
Optics provided by Third Coast Thermal.
Carpe sus, my friends.